All right, looking good.
Okay, we're live. Evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Mayor and Council of Princeton, New Jersey. It is August 8th, 2022. Madam Clerk, could we start with the meeting statement, please?
Yes. Notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act and state regulations governing remote public meetings, including the time, date, and location of the meeting, and clear and concise instructions to the public for accessing the meeting and making comments. In addition, the agenda and all related materials were posted electronically and made available to the public on Princeton's meeting portal in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. Could we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Perrone-Lambrose?
Here.
Ms. Niedergang?
Here.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Fraga?
Here.
Ms. Sachs? Mr. Newland?
Here.
Mayor Frida?
Here. Okay, before we get into the regular agenda, I would like council to consider the following changes to the agenda. The first change would be under announcements and reports, adding a second item, which would be by our consultants that are helping us with our redevelopment items that are on the agenda tonight. So they have a presentation. I'd like to add that to the agenda. As part of that, I would like to suggest we move resolutions number 1 and number 2 to be taken right after that presentation. Then we would go into the ordinance introductions, and then we would go to the rest of the resolutions. It just flows better having everything related to each other happen one after the other. So if someone would move that, and
Yeah,
David,
I'll
thank you.
move that. I suggest if we add it after the solid waste presentation.
Yeah, that's why I said it would be number 2.
Okay.
Yep. I'm sorry, Letitia, did you second that? Okay, all in favor, say aye or wave a hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. We got that. All right, approval of minutes is up first. We have minutes from our March 28th, 2022 meeting. If someone wants to move those. David, thank you. Is there a second? Leighton's got the second. Any questions or comments on that set of minutes? If not, okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's everybody. Okay, so next up is a proclamation, which I am supposed to read, and we are having technical difficulties here in Town Hall. So if someone else is available and can access the proclamation, I cannot get to it.
I have it, Mayor. If you,
Okay, and I would just like, David, thank you very much. And just before David reads that, I would just like to make sure everyone knows that we actually presented the proclamation to Olivia the day that she had her official retirement party here at Town Hall. So, but we wanted to officially do this as part of the meeting. So David, please go ahead. Thank you.
sure. This is a proclamation from the Office of the Mayor of Princeton. Whereas Olivia R. Kidd has diligently and professionally served the Princeton community for over 30 years and will be retiring on August 1st, 2022. And whereas Olivia R. Kidd began her career with Princeton Township as a temp, assisting in various departments where extra coverage was needed, beginning December 31st, 1991. And whereas during the summers of 1992 and 1993, from April to September, Olivia worked in the Princeton Recreation Department, assisting with whichever tasks needed to get done. And whereas on October 26th, 1993, Olivia began working as a temp in the Princeton Township Finance Office, and then became a full-time accounting clerk in the Finance Department on April 4th, 1994. And whereas Olivia continued to flourish in the Princeton Township Finance Department by becoming a full-time bookkeeper on January 1st, 2002, and then a full-time administrative assistant beginning January 1st, 2008. And whereas with the consolidation of the Borough and Township of Princeton, Olivia R. Kidd has continued to serve as an administrative assistant in the Princeton Finance Department for the municipality of Princeton. Whereas Olivia, our kid, has been an extraordinarily dedicated, hardworking professional and has served Princeton and its residents in a dignified, faithful, and trustworthy manner. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Mark Frieda, Mayor of Princeton, extend the municipality's humble expression of appreciation and sincerest congratulations to Olivia, our kid, for her 30-plus years of professional service to the municipality and its residents, and wish her good health, happiness, and the very best in her retirement, given under my hand and seal this 13th day of July, 2022, originally. Mark Frieda, Mayor.
David, thank you. Yeah, July 13th was the date of her retirement party. So,
There you go.
okay. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. Next up is public comments for items not on the agenda. So again, anyone from the public, if you hit the little raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen, this is for an item that's not on the agenda already. 3 minutes, state your name and address. And all right, I don't see any hands up. Just wait another second to make sure. All right, we don't see any comments for items not on the agenda. We'll move on past that section of the meeting and we'll go to announcements and reports. And why don't we do council announcements first? Eve?
I'll be brief. I just want to announce the Princeton Senior Resource Center Fall Fundraiser, which will be Thursday, September 15th at 6 p.m. The event will be outside and the attire is festive. So please come join us to support this wonderful organization and hope to see you there. That's it.
Thank you, Eve. Do we have any other council announcements? Okay. I'm sorry, Leighton?
Mayor, I am, quite frankly, over the moon for the following announcement. Lining the streets of the Paul Robeson Way with 3 banners at the Arts Council, going down John Street, taking a right on all the way down John Street to Birch Avenue, left on Witherspoon Street, and either right on Witherspoon Street, all the way up to the Arts Council of Princeton, are banners that depict 50 years. Let me say that one more time. 50 years of a documentary by a native son of Princeton. His name is Romus Broadway. He took pictures his entire life. And much more than being a photographer with a camera, he was an artist and storyteller with a tool. And these pictures, think about it, they are hanging on banners in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood. And, whether you're a visitor to town, whether you lived here, you can walk by. Some of us see ourselves. Some of us see our families in these pictures on poles in our neighborhood. Some of us see family members. All of us, and I would include everyone in Princeton, can see by walking through the neighborhood the pictorial history of the African American and the Italian American experience here in Princeton. It is a wonderful, wonderful and fitting tribute to the town of Princeton, one, to the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood, another. And again, I want to thank as with much enthusiasm as I can, one, Princeton University, for seeing it not robbery to purchase these pictures from the Broadway family. One might ask yourself, why in the world would the Princeton University purchase a bunch of pictures taken by a photographer? Why? Because it's valuable, because it is history. Princeton University is smart to understand and realize that it's not just Princeton history, but it's the United States of America history. And I want to thank the Arts Council for their involvement in this, along with the university. And I want to give a huge shout out for Princeton Municipal's engineering department, how they worked in record time, along with the Arts Council, to get all of the approvals to get this fitting recognition of Princeton in the month of August up on the poles. These banners depict an African and Italian American history in our municipality will be on display for a whole year. So you have time. You don't have to go today or tomorrow, but between now and next August, please do yourself a favor. Everyone on this call, tell somebody and bring somebody to a walk through history and walk through not only Princeton history, but the United States of America history right here in our town of Princeton in the wonderful Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood. So, very happy to say Princeton's 20th historic district. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Leighton. Any other council announcements? Okay, seeing none, we have a report or presentation on the collection of solid waste, bulk waste, and organics. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'll kick that off. Mayor and council, we have a presentation this evening on our proposal for a 5-year program to collect solid waste, organics, and bulk waste. It's a bit of a change to what we have now. We have with us this evening Wayne DeFeo, our consultant, who helped us put this together and did most of the work to put this together. And Sustainable Princeton, Christine Symington, will be doing a presentation. I'm about to share the slideshow, and hopefully everyone can see that.
Yep.
So this is a presentation on Princeton's proposed bid solicitation for the collection and disposal of solid waste, bulk waste, and organics. I will, but mostly Wayne DeFeo will present the discussion on the proposed bid solicitation for waste and organics collection, review the efforts to contain costs with program changes, and detail the next steps in the process. And once we complete that, Sustainable Princeton will provide a deeper dive into the emissions reductions to be achieved in this proposed plan and the idea of sustainability that is behind all of this. Wayne, are you ready to take it from here, or?
Sure, no problem. I'll be happy to. First of all, I have to say that I do a lot of these, and it's very rare to have a level of input that I have received on this particular set of specifications. What it shows is that Princeton has an interest in several things. One, a concern as to how things are done in Princeton, and two, a concern about the environment and what we can do going forward to minimize impacts to that environment. The important elements of this bid specification as it's written today are that there are two options that we are looking at right now. To quickly recap, as of today, Princeton's system is a bit of a hybridized system. You have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You have pretty much a hodgepodge. Some people have carts, it's semi-automated. Containers are not uniform. Your organics program, of course, was terminated not through any fault of Princeton, but because the facility at that time no longer could accept the materials. And again, that program was voluntary, as you recall, and had limited participation. The solid waste industry has changed significantly. And as we've discussed in the past, right now, as a result, partly of COVID, partly as a result of labor, partly as a result of changes in the industry, and partly as a result of fuel costs, numbers for new bids being received this year have ranged around New Jersey right now from about 40% more than they were to 150% more than they were. And that is a function of many things, but to give you an example, in a recent bid that was received in Atlantic City, they were thrilled, and that's not a great thing to be, I admit, to only receive a 45% increase. But what they did do in that bid is they took measures to contain the increase in the price. And that is what's being suggested here for Princeton. First, residents would each receive under one of the bid options, we'll call it option 1, a 64-gallon wheeled disposal cart, the blue one in this case, in this image, for each residence, sorry. Should the residents want more than 64 gallons of disposal, they would need to purchase that can. But as of right now, the way the bid is written, there would be one delivered to every home, residents to be specific. They can buy additional carts, and there would be fees associated with that. This is a cost containment measure. What it does essentially is say those who make more garbage will have to pay for that versus those who make less who will not subsidize that. In this same option, and also in option 2, we will change the way bulk waste is being collected. Today, the solid waste collector must drive around Princeton on each collection day for each zone, with the assumption that there may be bulk waste at the curb for any given property. Bulk waste collection is one of the most expensive services that can be provided in a solid waste collection system. As a way of containing the cost of bulk collection, nothing will change for the homeowner from the perspective of quantity of bulk waste that can be put at the curb or frequency. It would still be one time per week. The fundamental difference here to contain cost is that residents would need to make a reservation for the collection of bulk waste. The reason for this, as a cost containment measure, is that in surveys done in other municipalities, we have found that about 6% to maybe 10% of homes use bulk waste collection on any given week. This is not counting and does not take into account an emergency. So understand that during an emergency situation, such as a flood, a hurricane, or a blizzard, you may need to do additional bulk waste collection. That is not what we're talking about. But we're saying on average on a given week that we have a relatively low percentage of homes that actually put out bulk waste. By using a reservation system, and that system will be designed so that it can be by computer, by telephone, or by an app on a cell phone. The system is not fully devised, but to give you a model, take a look at Recycle Coach. I'm sure most of you have used that, or some of you do. Recycle Coach is an app that tells you when collection will be changed. This is the reverse. It would be used to schedule a collection of bulk waste. By doing this in combination with the carts, this allows your solid waste bidders to more efficiently allocate vehicles to the collection areas. If they choose to stay as semi-automated, meaning that someone gets off the truck, wheels a cart to the curb, and it gets tipped by a machine, that's fine. Or they may divide up your community using fully automated collection arms in some locations and semi-automated in others. In other words, it gives the bidder the opportunity to most efficiently and cost effectively determine how to collect carts of solid waste and bulk. That is option 1. In option 2, everything stays the same as to what I just stated, except that there will be a component with a price separated out for townwide organics collection. Under the organics collection model, every home would receive a 64-gallon organics cart, and that cart would be collected one time per week. Under your existing schedule system, you have 4 days of solid waste collection and reserved Wednesday for organics. As we are bidding this, we will leave it the same. We are open and would allow the bidders to come to us and say, we have a more efficient way to do this, but for now, nothing is proposed to change. That 64-gallon cart would be used for all food waste, and could be used for simple vegetative waste. And by that, I mean flower clippings, no woody tissue at this point, but we will determine that prior to the start of the contract, because we will be issuing a separate request for proposal for the processing of the organics. And what that will do is help us understand the cost, giving Princeton the opportunity to determine prior to awarding a contract whether it is in both your economic and environmental best interest to have organics collection as a separate collection. While I presume it to be true, why my hypothesis is that it will be, this will give you a numerical way to analyze that. And thus you have two options. The keys here are that bulk helps to contain cost, and a uniform system of solid waste collection containers, that is carts, also helps to contain costs. First, because it's a uniform system. Secondly, is that one of the biggest expenses besides fuel and equipment to a solid waste company are workmen's compensation claims. Picking up garbage physically from the curb and putting it in a truck often leads to injuries. By using either semi-automated or fully automated carts, that injury rate drops dramatically because you're wheeling and not picking up. In addition, by using carts for organics, of course, you have the flexibility to utilize a truck of a similar design more efficiently. Yes, bulk waste still, of course, proposes or offers the risk of injury. That can't be changed. So long as you have bulk waste collection, there's always a risk that someone will be injured, but you are reducing it. You are running a truck fewer miles, because by reservation, you might find there are only 100 pickups in Princeton or only 50 on a given day. The solid waste collector by reservation will have all of the addresses and can plug that into a routing system that can give him the most efficient, fastest, and least miles to pick up that material. Again, I want to emphasize that this design is proposed to help you contain costs. I am not going to sit here and tell you that any bid that anyone writes for you will lower your costs today. It is simply not out there right now. And with that, Christine, am I going to turn this over to you?
It's actually Jenny from Sustainable
Oh,
Princeton.
Jenny, I'm
will be
sorry.
Presenting.
Actually, Jenny, I think there are
Actually,
two more
Wayne is
slides
still-
for
yeah,
Wayne.
they're
Yeah,
switching
there
their
are.
slides.
Oh, okay.
Our
Yeah,
portion.
I'm
please.
sorry, let me go through this one. I apologize. My apologies.
We
As of right
have some
now-
numbers to show.
Yeah, let's give you some of these numbers. You can see that Princeton's costs have increased dramatically from 2018 to 2021. And let me tell you, that is absolutely normal statewide. We know what happened in 2020. Tonnages went up, disposal went up because people put out more garbage, they were home more. So residential tonnages are up statewide. Under your existing system, you are paying on a per ton basis. Under the proposed system, this number won't look exactly the same because you will pay a flat rate for your collection, and then you will receive a separate bill for disposal directly from the county. That is a more efficient way of doing this and much cleaner because it helps us to identify your tons of disposed waste much more effectively and helps us to track how effective your recycling program is at reducing that tonnage. We have real dollars, in other words, when we use a disposal as a separate item. In addition, you will have the ability to lower cost because food, I said this to someone earlier, Mercer County has the distinction of being #1 in the state of New Jersey for the cost per ton of disposal of solid waste. You have the highest per ton disposal rate in the state of New Jersey. So you are #1. Your rate right now is in the $120 plus per ton range. Very high. It's always been, actually, you've been #1 for about 20 years.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Council.
Well, why is that?
We don't have enough time this evening to give you that history, but it's a long history that goes back to about 1986, when the state started mandating that each county take care of its solid waste. And all I can tell you is Mercer County went through a number of iterations and ideas that did not work, but they had to be paid for. That's the simplest summation. If you'd like to talk more, I'm happy to talk to you offline, but it's a very long history.
Well, I think, thank you, but it's something I think that quite frankly does need further explanation, but that's for another day.
Happy to give that to you at any time. No problem.
Well, and there are a lot of reasons why the cost of waste collection is skyrocketing. So
Yes.
Wayne, you want to touch on some of these?
Yes, and as I alluded to this a little bit earlier, starting in 2020, the solid waste industry was no different than anybody else. Worker shortages, people being out with COVID. Think about it, it's a pretty high risk occupation. People weren't processing recycling. They could not get people to process the lines. It's a labor shortage. Now, that is not great news to anybody on this call. You've all experienced it, I'm sure. Vehicle costs are very high right now. They have risen dramatically. If you were to order a solid waste truck today, the average wait time would be the end of 2023 for delivery. In addition to which, you probably would pay a $10,000 to $15,000 per vehicle surcharge just for the steel. If anyone has shopped for a new vehicle in the past 5 months, I'm not telling you anything that's unusual. To think the industry is any different than what you and I would face is just not so. We've already seen the volume numbers. Your volume numbers are way up. And more people are working from home more often. I'm sure most of you here can work from home at least once a week. Of course, this call is proof that many of us are working from home more than that.
Sure.
And if you work from home, you generally have to generate more solid waste. More volume at the curb equals more people to pick it up, equals more running of trucks, equals higher costs for picking up the material, transporting it, and disposing of it. Labor is a nightmare in the solid waste industry right now. Although a CDL driver working with overtime can make $30, $40, $50 an hour or more, companies are not able to get enough drivers to do the work. To get people to be what we call helpers in the industry, the people who pick up curbside, is even harder. It's hard work, you can imagine. It's dirty work, you know. It is dangerous work. And the pay is okay, and it's gone up dramatically over the past 3 years, but people are still finding it hard to get workers. And by the way, going back to my earlier discussion, one of the advantages of going to a semi-automated or fully automated cart collection that's uniform in design and style is it reduces the need for more people on the truck. If you can't get the people, then you have to do something to use fewer people. And that's what a cart system gives you. That's also what a reservation for bulk gives you. You don't need to throw out as many trucks because you know in advance what you're going to need. Labor is an ongoing, continuous issue, and I am talking from the largest multinational corporations like Waste Management and Republic to the smallest independents. Everybody is having the same problem getting labor. In the last year, oops.
Sorry.
No problem. Just go back. I just want to end with that.
Yeah.
So we've had municipal service disruptions throughout the state. There are recent articles, some of you may have seen, a community in Burlington County is penalizing, I won't use that term, it's the wrong term, but assessing damages against its hauler of $56,000 to $60,000 already. Why? Because that hauler, which is a major contractor in the state, for reasons I don't know yet, had to fire 6 drivers. Something seriously had to go wrong. Well, you can't compete if you don't have those 6 drivers. In municipal services are no different. I won't name the county, but in one county, They cannot get drivers and they cannot get laborers. And they do a county program. It's not Mercer. So it does not use. All of these things have caused pricing to escalate. And I do not see any let up. And the final element of this, of course, is increased fuel costs. Now, fuel has started to come down, but I can tell you that talking to the companies I know, most are projecting in bids where there is no way to adjust for fuel over time against some known index. They are just going to bid it at $10 a gallon. Even if it's costing $4 or $5, they're going to bid it at 10, and some are going as high as 15. Why? Because they can't for 5 years or 3 years or some other number figure out, I don't know what fuel is going to do next year. If anybody here can tell me what gas and diesel will be next year, please send me an email because I would like to know. And no one does. So we are adjusting, we're containing your costs by putting in an adjustment factor, which is allowed under the state rules, that if the pricing of diesel actually comes down from a baseline, you'll benefit. If it goes up, you'll have to pay, but you only pay if it goes up. Now we can go to the next slide. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just wanted to point out that the whole purpose of we have three purposes, but the main purpose is, as Wayne has said, to contain our waste costs, to keep them from going up too rapidly, and take measures that will allow us to provide efficiency and equity, so that we have people not subsidizing others, and those who are paying or producing more waste pay extra. We're also we'd also like to, and hopefully council and the public is on board with this, expand our service to include the organics recycling for everyone. That is another cost containment measure, because it will reduce the amount of solid waste that goes toward our tipping fees at Mercer County Improvement Authority. And finally, the reduction in our carbon emissions through this process. Princeton can be leading the way in the sustainability side of waste collection. Wayne has already talked about using a universal waste system. The automated cart-based waste collection program will be more efficient and equitable, help containing costs. The organics program will help contain costs by reducing the solid waste tipping fee, and will reduce our carbon footprint. Bulk waste collection changes. There won't be any changes in the amount of bulk waste that a resident is allowed to put out on the street. And as he's described it, if we have a reservation system, it's much more efficient. Only about 6% of our residents dispose of bulk waste during any given week. But we actually provide a service to 100% of our residents, because our waste hauler goes around up and down every street to find the bulk waste. With a reservation system, they will only have to go to those locations where there is bulk waste to pick up. So that translates, as he said, to efficient staffing, safer workplace, containing costs, and lowering emissions. We have learned some lessons from our prior organics collection. We offered a subscription-based subsidized residential curbside collection of source-separated organics for several years, until it ended in 2019 due to rising costs, but mostly due to the uncertainty that the material was actually being recycled. We had 1,000 households participating at its peak. It was inefficient for haulers. With full participation, we're aiming for improved efficiency. At that time, there was also a lack of local facilities. The industry has become much more competitive in our region, and we now have a few more choices of where organics can go and be recycled. There was also a lack of effective communication between the processing facility that we were using with us and with the residents. Things have changed, and we are going to establish a staffing, contract conditions, and communications plan to address that so everybody knows what they're doing. I'll touch on the schedule real quickly. I know we're taking a lot of time. As engineers, we actually look at when we need to have something in place and then back up to find out when the deadlines are. So we really need to release our bid for solid waste, bulk waste, and organics collection this month. We're also at the same time going to release a request for proposals for the organics processing contract, which will come in September. Whereas the solid waste, bulk waste, and organics collection contract won't be coming in until October. So it gives us an opportunity to award the organics processing contract first, and then amend our bidding process, submit a change during the bidding, and require our collection contractors to deliver the organics to our selected processor. In November, we'll introduce and adopt new solid waste regulations that will have to cover all of the changes that we're making. Throughout this entire time frame, we're going to conduct outreach and public education. We've already started preparing some marketing materials with the help of Sustainable Princeton to explain this to the public. If this is acceptable to council, our first mailing will go out in about 10 to 12 days. It will be a postcard making people aware that there will be changes coming. We will follow up in a month or two with more educational materials and keep the education going until January. And then in February 2023, we have to have a new contract in place and start with new service. One caveat here is that carts, just like everything else, there's a supply chain issue, and carts may take 8 to 24 weeks after contract award to be delivered. The 8 weeks will get us from the award in October so that we'll have carts available before we get started. But if it's 24 weeks, we'll have to scramble a little bit and figure out how we're picking up all of this solid waste and organics, since we won't have carts in time. Wayne, you want to talk about the vendor evaluation for the organics processing facility?
Sure. One of the things that we will be doing is determining whether or not the organics processing facility can accept the materials that we need, but we will use a couple of other items. One of the advantages of an RFP is that you don't have to go to the lowest bidder. It may be that while we don't want price to be no thought, but we can look at other items. For example, we are going to look at the distance from Princeton that each facility is located at, because if, for example, we have a food processing facility, let's just presume in Delaware, although that's unlikely, then the cost of getting it there and the environmental impact of getting it there will negate the benefit of the processing of the food waste, either through composting or digestion. So we have established a radius, mileage radius, I should say, and I should say more specifically road miles, because trucks don't travel in straight lines, using the generally accepted rules of transportation. That is, solid waste companies don't like to drive more than 25 miles with a packer. So we've used that as our baseline. The first location has to be within 25 road miles. After that, we will see an assessed charge, and then we will use that to evaluate the cost. Not only will we be looking at the environmental benefits of the facility that it goes to, but we will be looking at the economic impact of using that facility. And going back to that discussion of you being number one, what we know from a prior RFP that you attempted, we know rough costs for organics processing are about 30% less per ton than they are for the processing of solid waste. Thus, for every ton we can encourage people to recycle properly in the organics program, we will reduce the per ton solid waste cost by plus or minus 30%, depending on what number we get when we see the organics proposals. We will also be discussing the issue of contamination, and we will determine, number one, what level of contamination can the facility accept without harming Princeton or their operations. It is important to understand that just because we let out a bid or a proposal, that does not wash our hands of our ongoing obligation to your residents and your residents' ongoing obligation to the program. Residents must put the right item in the right container at the right time for the programs to be successful, whether it's solid waste, organics, or recycling. You've all read articles of wish cycling, and we can't have wish cycling. We can't have wish organics. There are things the facility simply cannot process. And that is something we will be looking at. Who can take the greatest variety of materials and process them in an environmentally sound way with a guarantee that the tonnage you generate can be accepted. All of these things will be looked at in the evaluation. And in addition, of course, Princeton will receive, for every ton of food that is processed and recycled through this new program, should you choose to award it, additional tonnage grant money. Recycling benefits your community in that regard. It will not completely offset the program, but it is something that Princeton could certainly be very proud of. And that money can be used to assist in the education of residents so they know what to do and when to do it. The other question, of course, is can Princeton get any of this material back, i.e. compost? We'll ask. We don't know what their program will provide. We don't know what their generosity will be. Those who want your material are likely to be more generous. But you certainly will have an opportunity to get the material. Obviously, you could always buy it, but we'll see what we can get back, some sort of a benefit program. And we'll be looking at all of these items for you.
And in order to ensure that this program is successful, we've laid out a proposed education and outreach strategy that includes the first phase of awareness, letting everyone know that the program is coming, that it's going to be available, particularly the organics collection. That is to attract interest. The next step will be consideration and education of understanding why we're doing what we're doing and how we're going to do it. Then moving into ensuring participation through converting people's minds and getting them to comply with the new system. And then even moving on to getting everyone engaged and supporting the program so that they become advocates, talk with their neighbors, question why they're not or that why they are, using eliminating organics or recycling organics. And we have a number of different tactics that we're going to deploy. As I said earlier, our first one is probably a town-wide postcard mailer to raise awareness. And then we will have signups, we'll have websites, we'll have all of the social media, and we'll have people subscribing to news about the program all before it actually launches in February. To ensure success of the program, and when we talk about this, we're really talking about success with reducing solid waste and increasing the amount of organics that we convert, is to make sure that we have that timely and consistent communication between everybody, so that we can remedy issues as they arise, if they arise, and not wait until it's too late. Provide consistent education, encouragement to the residents to manage contamination, because contamination is going to be, it's going to happen. And we have to manage it. We have to keep it to a reasonable amount. We will also be having to monitor the organics carts to ensure contamination stays below acceptable levels. As Wayne said, we're looking at an organics processor that will be able to accept a certain amount, and we have to make sure that we're not exceeding that amount. And then, of course, we have to update our ordinances to reflect the changes in our waste management. So we do need a continuous feedback loop between the residents, us, our haulers, and our processors. And we are well on our way to setting up that continuous feedback loop and all of the education and outreach strategies. Sustainable Princeton will be taking over. I think it might be worthwhile pausing right now and see if you have any questions for Wayne or me.
Well, I'll go David, Leighton, Michelle.
Thanks, Mayor. I think the main question that occurred to me as I listened to the presentation is about this bulk waste, which seems like an expensive thing to offer, and I never use it, so really, why do we have to offer it? But I guess the question is more, is there anything about the way that we're putting this out to bid that would prevent us from deciding to charge when people make an appointment to help recoup some of those costs? And could we
There's
handle that
nothing.
Yeah.
Go, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just saying, could we handle that in-house if we wanted to?
I'd be happy to answer that, David, because I argued the exact opposite in committee, but I'm happy to let Wayne answer it.
Well,
Sure.
there are two parts of the question, Councilwoman. One is, should you do it? That's one question. And the second question is, if you chose to do it, how would you do it? That's a mechanical question within your town, within Princeton, on how the mechanics would work. I'm sure you could develop a system. It's not hard. The question is, can you, from a technical standpoint in a bid? The answer is yes, certainly. We wouldn't actually put it out to bid that way. They would still do the collection, but then you would develop an in-house charging system if that's what you want to do. We wouldn't actually have to say anything in the bid other than to tell the bidder that we need to have that cost. And in fact, we have structured the bid at engineering's request and your request to have a separate price for bulk. So we actually would know the number and could extrapolate that number to a per collection charge if that's what you want to do. So technically, can you? Yes. Legally, I defer to legal. And should you, I defer to Councilwoman Sachs.
And my argument, David, was you may not use it, but the bulk of the people who use it are people in our community who are elderly, disabled, financially disadvantaged, and it's actually very expensive and cumbersome to try to have something removed from your property. It's financially and physically, the bar is pretty high and it's challenging. It is something that I think we're making some pretty significant changes here. And I know that this is something that is used fairly widely, particularly by residents who don't have the option to pay, a handyman, or they have, regular people who service and help them with their regular, household needs and tasks. And it's really the people who don't have that assistance who rely the most on this. And from a public health and safety standpoint, in terms of a lot of the stuff that's removed, I think we're better off as a town to have it removed. I was somewhat skeptical about, I was concerned about even going to the current system. But I was reassured that it still will be very much available for the people who need it. And I am quite convinced that they do need it. And, if you want to implement a sliding scale so that the people who, I don't have an objection to that, but it might be more complicated than it's worth.
Yeah. I'll just respond. I think it's a great thing to have this reservation system because we'll get real data on where the people live who are using it, that kind of thing. So I don't know where you're getting your information, Mia, that this is the, the group of our residents who are using it. But I think it would be good to have that be evidence-based. And I think this system will allow us to gather that evidence.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Leighton, you were next.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just kind of, David, to piggyback on what Mia said, I think what you're looking at, quite frankly, is a social and environmental justice issue. If you walk around town like I do on days when there's trash collection, it would take you less than no time to figure out, quite frankly, that much of that happens in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood and on the tree streets. Like Mia said, it's a social justice issue. Most of the time when you see bulk out, it's in neighborhoods that have a lot of rental properties. So that would be something I would be paying an awful lot of attention to on that issue. My question really is, it seemed to me when we were going through the presentation that there were some quotation marks on being right with what we put in what basket. And my question is, if I am a resident here and I put chicken bones when I shouldn't put them in the basket, and I put paperwork in the basket where I should be putting the food and the chicken bones, what are the penalties and what is our downside risk if we find out? And again, I'm trying to match up why I heard that we were #1 in Mercer County in expenses for trash removal, and how that would equate to the downside risk of us not being able to keep up with the rules and regulations on both sides, composting and solid waste, what that could cost us, and would that negate any savings that we are trying to provide for ourselves?
Councilman, let me just first make sure I'm clear, and maybe I wasn't. Princeton doesn't have the most expensive solid waste collection system in Mercer County or in the state. Mercer County has the most expensive disposal system. So what you're concerned
Okay.
about, which is a legitimate concern, vis-a-vis how much contamination will hurt you. The contamination would hurt you on the organic side if you are putting organics, improper items in the organic stream. Just like when people put the wrong thing in the recycling bucket, it hurts the recycling program. Although you do not see as Princeton a cost impact for that. In the organic system, you could conceivably see a financial penalty if people put the wrong thing in the organics bin. Understand the way this is designed right now. There is no penalty per se for putting the organics in with the garbage, even though we don't want you to do that, except that you're throwing your tax dollars in the garbage. If we give you a program where it can be recycled. As far as what you can put in from your kitchen, to use its simplest way, it would be any food. Meat, bones, dairy, wouldn't matter. Vegetative, no matter. The facilities can handle all of that. So just to be clear, you're not #1 because of collection program. You're #1 on a county level, which you probably had nothing to do with as a community way back when in terms of driving that cost up.
Thank you for clearing that up for me. Now, I guess my follow-up is, if we have significant problems with a neighborhood or a resident, how do we as a community monitor that? Or is that a possibility?
Yes, Councilman Newland, that is going to be part of the program. We have a community compliance officer. She may not be thrilled, but she'll be looking in buckets on collection day to make sure that the organics is not contaminated and that people are putting the right thing in the right buckets. And if they're not, they will not be collected. So that is the disincentive to the residents. If you don't do it right, it just won't be picked up. And we have to be very strict about that. I know in the past, waste haulers will still pick it up. We'll get calls and say, my garbage didn't get picked up today, and we'll send somebody out. And sometimes DPW will take care of it. We're not going to do that anymore. It has to be, we have to get the education out there. We have to have the communication with the public, and they're going to have to do it right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Michelle, you're up next.
Not to belabor the bulk waste pickup, but just a couple of things I want to comment on that, and then I have a question. It seems to me, first of all, a reservation system would certainly save money by not having someone circulating, looking, and wasting fuel and energy and staff time. And then I don't know if it's feasible, but maybe you just have it like leaf and brush where it's a certain week in a certain zone, and that's bulk waste. So just throw it out there as a, not to belabor the point now, but just to discuss later. So just to clarify, this would be for the weekly pickup, and the difference for us residents would be that we would be separating our organics from our regular garbage, and it would become automated with trash pickup, which I think things in the world are moving that way. And it seems like down the road, that would be a cost savings and efficient if we get into EVs. But we would still have our every other week recycling pickup as a separate management.
Correct.
Just so that it's clear to everybody that there be three streams, right? And I've always understood that by separating organics, I think about all the food that goes into and mixed in that could be compostable, and it's getting thrown in landfill. So, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world if we can start to educate people and start to do that. And my question about that too is, are there a lot of vendors, or do we have a very limited number of vendors out there when we put an RFP out?
Princeton put out, as I said, an RFP last year. You had 3 submissions back.
Okay.
I don't anticipate that would change. The difference will be one of distance. We're being a little more cognizant of the distance to where they're located. But right now,
Okay.
Mercer County does have a viable, fully permitted facility within 10 miles. So
Okay.
you do have something, which is great. You're not going to Delaware like you were before, because that's all there was.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, as the technology takes place, I'm sure it becomes more competitive and more cost effective. And then, are there a lot of neighboring communities doing this, Wayne?
I might defer to Jenny and Christine, but the short answer is no, not
Okay.
right now.
That's good. We like to be cutting edge, so.
And let me, if I could just jump in and clarify, Councilwoman Lambros, the entire municipality will not be fully automated because we have many, our central business district will have to be semi-automatic because we have cars parked on the streets, and they'll need to do the semi-automatic. So the bid has that worked into it as well, to make sure that we've got the right kind of collection in the right type of neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. My dog agrees too. That sounds good.
Eve, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to, I think maybe David's point has already been asked, but I think with the reservation system, it gives us a great opportunity to collect information. And, we can decide in the future if we want to take further steps in that area or not, or offer, waivers for, certain folks. But I think that, to start out with a system where we're charging people, this is already, it's going to be we are asking people to make a dramatic change in their daily habits. And this is something that, as you know, came up over and over again in our discussions in the Infrastructure and Operations Committee, talking about this. We are not underestimating how much we're asking of our residents in terms of, we're asking 7,000 plus households to change everything, how they conduct their business every day. And the reason that I think we all felt comfortable doing this is that, first of all, the incredible increase in costs that we're going to be facing, and the desire to, as Wayne has cautioned us, not reduce costs, but contain costs, right? Wayne, did I get that right?
Correct.
That's really, and you combine that with the fact that, as you'll hear in a minute, that environmentally, we're also able to reduce the amount of carbon, reduce our carbon footprint and do something good for the environment. So this is really, as I see it, a win-win. And we had a meeting just a week ago where we heard from staff from Sustainable Princeton. They are ready for this outreach into the community to educate the community. And as with the Sustainable Landscaping Initiative, no one wants to be punitive. That is not the goal, is not to walk up to somebody and say, shame on you, you put the banana peel in the wrong container. That is not it. We want to educate people and have them do the right thing. And we know people with the best of intentions are going to make mistakes. I still can't decide what to do with the top to my water bottle. Wayne, maybe you can tell me, put it in the recycling or take it off. I've heard different things from different recycling experts. So we understand that it's going to be a long process, and people are going to need a lot of hand holding. And maybe, we're going to have, as we have with the Sustainable Princeton's STAR program, kind of like, block captains or something like that. Or, we're going to have to harness our high school students to hold their families accountable and do this right. But, the idea is not to be punitive. The idea is to educate people to comply so we can do something that will help contain costs and that is environmentally, beneficial. So it really is just a win-win situation. And this is something personally that I've been hoping to do and working on, since I came onto council. So I am just thrilled that the circumstances have aligned so that this goal is possible. So that's what I had to say.
Thanks. Mia.
I want to second what Eve said, and also just mention that when we had the meeting last week to make a final decision about whether to move forward with this, I raised some pretty pointed questions to staff and Sustainable Princeton about the extent to which they can provide scaffolding for this program, because I remembered that there's some other programs that we've rolled out, and it has been like a tsunami in terms of the amount of time that it took and energy that it took from council members and staff with education and hand-holding and answering calls at all times of day and night about individual questions. And I will say that I had concerns about rolling this out now, given the extent of change that's going on in the community in general. There's a lot of construction, there's growth, and I was just wondering, can we add this layer on? But when we considered everything on balance, especially the escalating costs and the very clear environmental benefits, and the fact that so many residents, when we discontinued our organics waste program, were really, really upset about that and have been asking us this entire time to bring it back. What's particularly, I think, heartening this time is that we're bringing it back with full confidence that the materials will actually be composted in a way that we can monitor and ensure that they are being responsibly composted. But my question after that background was of Christine, because I'm wondering if you can explain a bit along the lines of what you explained to us on the call, and how you reassured us of the extent to which you, together with the engineering staff and other members of the team are going to be able to carry this out. And I just want to mention one more thing, that Wayne has spent many months studying our waste system and costs, and this is not done precipitously. I think we first engaged Wayne to start this more than a year and a half ago. So but the reason why I think we feel the need to move on it now is really the rapidly escalating costs. So sorry, go ahead, Christine.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Sachs. Say it's been since 2013 that I've been, somewhat tangentially involved with the initial program, and since then, trying to assist the municipality in evaluating when's the right time to restart it. And I'd say, I feel very confident that Deanna and her team, she's assembled a team of existing and new staff that are really committed to seeing this succeed and that will provide the day-to-day oversight that it really needs. And our team here is ready to support in the education and helping folks understand how this is an environmentally beneficial thing to do. So I think, all the right ingredients have finally come together to really make it a successful program. We're very cognizant of the fact that contamination will need to be managed. And I think everyone's going to that with eyes wide open. So I do feel pretty confident that, with the municipality's staff that would be seeing the day-to-day of this, and as I said, with our support to help get the word out to the community about how to do it right, I think town has a good chance of success.
Thanks,
Okay.
Christine.
Shall we move
So-
on with,
Hey, Jim,
sorry.
not yet. I got a couple questions.
Okay.
Last time, the voluntary program had a lot of problems with contamination. And that's a worrisome piece of information. Because if that was a program where people were saying, I want to do this, you're not making me do it, I want to do it, and there still was that high level of contamination, what is the risk to us if the contamination levels are not kept below whatever the final site that this goes to, whatever they will accept? What is the cost risk to us if they start turning it away?
Well, I think I'll take that, Jim, if you.
Thank you. Wayne.
Sorry, yeah, I would have asked you, Wayne. I didn't see you there at first. Sorry.
The cost risk will depend on what the proposals come back as. Almost any bid or proposal today that deals with recycling, no matter what the material is, no matter what the commodity is, has a built-in penalty surcharge against the municipality if it exceeds a set contamination level. So the risk to Princeton would be financial if people don't do it correctly. But I would like to just point out that your prior program, which I was somewhat familiar with, you didn't have the resources put into it that you're putting into this program. You just didn't have the number of people and the commitment to it on a more global basis. Sustainable Princeton has done a huge amount of legwork on this thing in the past year and a half. So but to answer your question succinctly, in my area, it would be potentially financial, and it would be some number on a per ton basis. We don't know what that is yet because we don't have the numbers in front of us. But it also helps your education program, because now you can tell your residents, every time you do this wrong, you're costing Princeton your tax dollars.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we have that discussion when the bids come back, because it's reality, and we have to be prepared to what is the potential cost, and that may decide how we go one way or another on what we do. I sincerely hope that this program is a huge success because it just makes so much sense. But you would have thought the voluntary organics program would have been a huge success. Now, let me ask just one more question. Enforcement. Now, I know everybody gets it. We're going to enforce what you're putting in the organics bucket. Are we going to enforce what goes in the solid waste bucket? I.e., you know what? I don't care about that organics bucket. I'm never going to use it. I'm dumping everything in my solid waste bucket. Which way? What is the committee that worked on this? What is your thoughts on what type of enforcement we're doing? Because again, that we better be upfront about that.
Wayne, I'll take that. The idea, Mr. Mayor, is that this is a semi-voluntary organics recycling program that we know that we're going to be spending time, at least 6 months, probably a year, with our communications program and our education program to get significant participation. And there was discussion, and I think it's worth having continually through that process to eventually make it mandatory. And at that point, we would start enforcing the separation of organics from solid waste. But we're not mandating it at this point. And so there would not be any enforcement at this point to if people were to put their organics in the solid waste bin. They will have the second bin for organics anyway. We've decided we will not take them back if they say we don't want it. They'll have to keep it, and we'll tell them that eventually you will need to use it, because we believe that eventually this will be mandated as soon as we get to a point where everyone understands the overwhelming benefits of organic recycling.
Thanks, Jim. So pretty much the enforcement for the up to the first year is probably just going to be how much contamination are you putting
Right.
in the organics bucket?
And,
Okay.
and education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Michelle?
This is just a tremendous effort, and I'm really excited about it. I just wanted to say, you've got the 1,000 or so residents that did the voluntary program. So that's going to be a really good, I guess, a resource to really start that grassroots effort, because this is really going to be grassroots. People are going to really have to understand it. So I think your approach of knowing that you're going to have to do a lot of education and community outreach is really excellent. So I just want to thank you for all the hard work that's coming. This is just a start.
It's coming. Yes.
Christine?
I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on your question, Mayor Freda, about the existing participants were motivated to do it and there were still contamination issues. So one thing the municipality might want to consider when it gets the responses back from the facilities is even if a facility could say accept pizza cardboard boxes, you might not want to start by allowing that in there, because it's much easier to add materials that you can tell people to put in there than it is to take it away. And that was one of the issues with the previous program. The facility that was accepting it when the program rolled out could accept certain materials, but then as when that facility closed down and the materials had to go to other facilities, they were more restrictive. So something the town should consider is perhaps starting with, limiting what you could put in there to just, food scraps, but then adding things in over time so you can manage the contamination a little better.
Good. Thank you. David?
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out with the old program, which was voluntary, it also had a cost. You had to pay to participate. Whereas in this system, you will not. Everybody will get the container and it will be free. And I think that maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I think there are a lot of residents, who will embrace that. Since they don't have to pay for it, suddenly it'll be a lot more appealing than it was back then.
Yeah. Lee?
Mayor, I just want to say this connects all the dots with regard to sustainability, and I want to give Wayne a lot of credit. I was on a phone call with him in Deanna maybe a week or two ago, and they spent time discussing the nuances and the particulars about public housing authorities and our locations, and asking the right questions about what variations and mitigations we might need or the housing authority might need to make this happen. The other thing I want to add is that for a couple weeks, a month ago, I just tried it on my own. I took everything that I would throw in the trash, all of the chicken bones, the fish bones, all of that stuff, and I put it in a separate bag, and I was shocked when I put my trash out at the end of the week. It was light. It was very light. And I think over time, there is no doubt at all that if we do the right education and awareness programming, and I think we're very capable of that, that we'll be cleaner for it. And I think in the long run, and quite possibly in the shorter run than we may think, would save us a great deal of money. And it's certainly cleaner and more environmental friendly.
Yeah, the potential's there. I mean, it's really a no-brainer, but hopefully it works better than last time. Okay, we're going to Sustainable Princeton now.
And Jenny is up.
Hey, thank you very much. Happy to. Could we go ahead and go to the next slide, Jim? So working with the infrastructure and operations, or I think it's actually the operations committee, they asked us to do a deeper dive into our emissions analysis. And so that's what we've done today. And so what was alluded to earlier was the fact that the landscape in our region in terms of food processing facilities has dramatically changed over the past few years. So we do now have anaerobic digestion. We also have composting facilities and our landfill all right within 20 miles of us. And so what we did in our new analysis was just simply pretend like each of them did apply and look at those numbers of what the trucking impact would be to move the waste to each of these facilities. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip the next two slides that talk about anaerobic digestion and composting, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have them. So if we could keep going to the next one, Jim, and then the next one. So in order to do this analysis, we looked at the 2021 data for Princeton. And so we know that there were 6,025 tons of landfill waste generated that year. We also can estimate that about a fourth of our landfill waste is food waste. This is from a county study. That helps us to understand that statistic. And so that leaves us with 1,500 tons of food waste that went to landfill in the year. We utilize the tool that's developed by the EPA called the WARM tool that lets us analyze different strategies. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide and look at the data. So we looked at three different pathways. The first one is the baseline, and that's what we're doing now. We are sending 100% of our waste, which includes food waste, to the landfill. And so because we know certain characteristics of that landfill, where it's located, how it's managing the methane, we can say that it generates 2,800 essentially metric tons of carbon dioxide every year. So pathway A is what happens if we have the anaerobic digester in Trenton bid on this project. And if they are accepted, we can estimate that we are going to send a fourth of our food waste to them. That's 17 miles away. And we'd still have 3/4 of our waste going to the same landfill. Making this shift reduces our greenhouse gas emissions by 890 metric tons of carbon dioxide. And the anaerobic digester has the added benefit of generating electricity from the methane it captures in its process. Pathway B is looking at if we were to send a fourth of our waste to a composting facility in Hopewell. And again, we don't know who's going to bid yet. These are all hypotheticals. So we assumed 13 miles away. And with that, we know that we are reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 1,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. And so we can go to the next slide. So a few questions have already come up with this analysis. One was, hey, we're adding another truck for an organics collection. This can't be environmentally friendly. So I just want to stress that the model that we just referenced from the EPA is absolutely including transportation of the materials in its analysis. And I can say that transportation for our proximity of facilities that we have is less than 1% of the emissions. The far greater piece of this, the emissions, is the methane. And when it is going to the landfill, it's incredibly toxic for the environment. The second question we've had is, what if the hauler converts their trucks to natural gas or even electric? There's word that they are shifting that way. Will that impact this? And yes, it would be great if they did that. I love that idea. But because we're talking about 1% of our emissions, it really won't have a dent. The other question is, what if the landfill suddenly adopts California's regulations, brings in landfill methane capture that is the best in the country. That would be great, but these landfill capture technologies are not perfect. They're 60 to 90% effective. So we still have 450 to 600 megatons of carbon dioxide that are saved by diverting our food waste to one of those two pathways. And so just to summarize, the warm tool says this is a environmentally sound decision. So I just want everyone to have confidence in that separating food waste is environmentally sound, and we have facilities in the region that are able now to process it. And so when we look at those benefits, we're talking about tens of thousands of tree seedlings getting planted or taking off the road a couple hundred cars. So it's a good thing to be thinking about. And I believe that's the last of mine, Jim. Yes, so thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jenny. Eve, do you have a question?
Not a question, but I just want, when we came into this process, I mean, while I was a participant in the earlier composting program, and I felt very virtuous, it was more greenwashing, as they say, than really making an impact on the environment. And I did not want to invest time and energy and have the people of this town invest time and energy in something that made them feel virtuous, but didn't do anything beneficial to the environment. And that was a point that I made over and over. Members of the Princeton Environmental Commission also made that point. And I feel that what Jenny just presented has really addressed that issue. Not only are there potential cost savings, and Mark, you made a good point about, possible contamination, and that's why we're going to have our compliance officer out there making sure that doesn't happen and educating people. But there's not only real savings, again, sorry, Wayne's gonna shoot me, cost containment possible, but we are really taking steps to do something beneficial environmentally, and this is the the trifecta, so to speak, that I particularly have been waiting for, and I'm hoping this is the last time I'll speak on this topic. So I did just want to thank Wayne for the many hours he's spent and his patience and answering all questions all the time. And also Jim, Deanna, our new crew in engineering, our compliance officer, and our project manager. And the Sustainable Princeton folks, and also not represented here tonight, but played a really important role in helping Wayne do his analysis, is the Department of Public Works. So just wanted to make sure that they were also recognized, because their input, their candor, and their really going into the details really helped with this. So thanks.
Thanks, Eve. Mia.
Jenny, is there a way you could just skim through very quickly the two slides that you omitted? Because I know those slides contain information that likely we are going, when the moment we go to public comment period, we're going to get questions about that. Those are the kind of questions we get. So if you want to just quickly go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the main one I skipped were these three, yes. So landfill gas is a natural byproduct of the decomposition of food waste and other organic material in the landfill, and it generates methane. Methane is a very potent greenhouse gas. It's something like 30 to 40 times stronger than carbon dioxide at trapping heat in the environment. And I alluded to this third point at the end. There are landfill gas projects to capture methane and convert it to energy. However, they are not 100%. They are right now achieving 60 to 90% of the methane. And because it's so potent, this is why even in those environments, you still want to divert it from the landfill. And then the other point here is that our landfill has indicated that they are moving towards one of those renewable gas projects. And so they haven't done it yet. Our indication now is that they are flaring the methane. And so that is what we used in our model to come up with the values that I provided tonight. But that's also why I answered the question of what would happen if they went to a landfill gas capture.
Jenny, please explain for the public's benefit what it means when we flare methane, we burn it off.
Yeah,
what does that happen? What happens with then?
So that's a good point. If Wayne is still with us, he might explain it better than me. But the idea is that they are reducing the methane when they do this. And I don't have numbers of the percentage. Wayne, is that something you want to try?
I could give you a little bit. I won't have the percentages. When you're flaring methane, think of it as, unfortunately, a waste of a natural resource. But essentially, rather than allowing the methane to simply go into the atmosphere as methane, it's burned. And if you've ever seen a picture of an oil well, you'll often see a flame coming out. That's because most oil wells flare the methane. That methane is nothing more than an uncontrolled flame. Think of turning on your gas stove at home. But it's less controlled than that because it's less pure than that. And it's just emitting all of the emissions from the combustion directly into the atmosphere.
Thank you, Wayne.
And then the second pathway that we analyzed was to a facility that does what's called anaerobic digestion. This might be new for many people in Princeton because Trenton Renewables is our facility that is in Trenton, and they have been doing this for several years now, but I don't think many people know about it. The idea is that they're breaking down organic matters using bacteria, and they're doing it in the absence of oxygen, which is a lot of similar to what happens in a landfill, but in this case they're doing it in a contained vessel, and they are capturing that biogas and using it to, in the case of Trenton Renewables, generate electricity. That's why I gave you that value in that second pathway. It also, this process also generates a digestate, which can be used as a fertilizer for farms. It can be soil amendments, and it can even be used as animal bedding. The point is that in this, not only do you have methane handled responsibly, but you're also recovering the nutrients in the form of that digestate. And then composting is the one that you probably are more familiar with. That is another way of managing organic waste, except this time it's doing it in an oxygen-rich environment. And the output of this is compost, which you're probably familiar, can be used as a soil amendment, nutrient-rich, and it also acts to store carbon, which is probably the biggest part of the difference in the numbers when we looked at those two different pathways. And so again, we've got methane, not really being generated in this pathway, only a very small amount. And the output is nutrient recovery. Mia, did that address what you were hoping for?
I think it probably cut down on about 4 or 5 questions, so thanks.
Okay, hoping that we've addressed all the council comments. Why don't we see what the public comments are, and then maybe move on. Okay, Adam, can we bring in the first person with their hand up, please?
Yes, Mayor, bringing over Tony.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. This is Tony Lunn on Hawthorne Avenue. I commend all of you. This is a fantastic thing to look at. and I am very excited about the potential here. So thank you for doing this. I would like to make 2 points really to essentially further the effort. The first point is the amount of stuff. We perhaps, with a little more time, being retired and all, and a bit more knowledge, have been putting a tremendous amount of effort in reducing the amount of stuff we throw away. And I won't take time to elaborate, except I'll say we have a compost pile, we use Sustainable Princeton's recycling program, everything from batteries to polystyrene foam. We have a neighbor who takes scrap metal to somewhere once a year. We use FreeCycle quite a lot. You'd be surprised what things you can get rid of through FreeCycle. People are really excited that to have something that way. We put stuff on the curb a day before, and often it's taken away before the trash people come. There are lots of different things that can be done. So the result of this is, and I'm just sort of guesstimating, we probably have on a typical week, and there are only 2 of us in our house, 5 to 10 gallons of stuff to throw away in the trash can. So we don't want a 64-gallon trash can, thank you very much. Perhaps you could give us one that's half the size. Maybe you could build into the system some option for that. That's one suggestion. But it also shows perhaps the potential harbinger of the future, that as more and more people get turned on to make the effort that people like us do, that we can have a really big reduction in stuff. Second and final point is to encourage you very, very heavily on the education efforts. I know that you're already looking at it. As an illustrative example, I'll mention recycling. I know we're not talking about recycling, but this is just an illustration. Recycling is done for better or worse at the county level, and it needs a lot of improvement. But our street has highly educated people on it. We have people who have won all kinds of academic prizes and received a heck of a lot of fame around the world for their accomplishments. They're smart, educated people. And I looked at 15 recycling cans down our street last year to see what people had put in them. And of these 15 sets of cans of stuff, 14 of them had stuff that should not be there, ranging from plastic bags to the wrong kind of plastic, to wish cycling, to food, to you name it. The 15th one I like to think was us. We really try to, we know what we're doing, but nobody else does. And there's an easy benefit from education that is simply not being used. Education has been done thanks to Ms. Niedergang and now the compliance officer in the leaf blower area, rather than this being mostly a, oh, you bad person, you're violating the ordinance. It's being turned into an education, and there's a better way to do it, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to do the same thing here. But do put a big effort in education, because you'll find big benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. All right, Adam, we bring in the next person, please.
Mr. Mayor, can I address his first comment? It was something we failed to put into our presentation, was that there will be an option for a resident to request a smaller cart. So that was unfortunately left out of our presentation. So they will be able to get a 32-gallon cart instead of a 64 if they request it.
Thanks, Drew. All right, Adam, who's next?
Okay, bringing over Phyllis.
Just to remind everybody that's lining up, it's a 3-minute limit. Please state your name and address. And thank you very much.
I'm Phyllis Teitelbaum. I'm the other half of Tony Lunn. We share the same household. And I would just add, Tony said much of what I had thought of adding, but I would just add an example of a very effective way to get compliance. And that is a system that is used in Germany. Some German neighbors of us told us about it. The person, now this would be our compliance officer, whom I have met. I think she's terrific. I think we're really lucky to have her, and I'm very glad she's going to work on this. The compliance officer would have a checklist of the typical things that people do wrong. And when she finds a can that has various things wrong, she checks off the ones. She makes sure she has a space to add something else that isn't on the checklist, and she leaves it, and the can is not collected. But the people who put it out thinking they were doing the right thing are told exactly what it is that is wrong with it. And if you just don't collect it, they don't know. They think they're doing the right thing. So I think we need a system like that that gives people specific feedback on what they're doing wrong. Like plastic bags. People who were voluntarily paying to do composting use plastic bags, and they need to know they can't do that. So that's my contribution. I do hope the organics proposal does go through. We use the organics program for a long time. We found it was terrific. Even with our own compost heap, we really appreciated being able to compost a lot of things that we couldn't put in our compost heap. So thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks, Phil. All right, Adam, who's next?
Mayor, if Christine or Jim, I think that exactly what Phyllis describes, the county was already supposed to be doing that. It was called, I had a special name, and can one of you speak to that and somehow?
Can we just let all, I mean, the public's been waiting. Can we just get
Sure.
through that? Thanks. All right, Adam, who's next?
All right, next we have Maria.
Good evening, Maria Juega, Grover Avenue. I just want to ask, what do we do with our existing cans, and can we not reuse those cans? I have two, one from the former composting program, green one, which is smaller one, and then I have the current one. Can we not reuse these and ask for a reduction in or make it a part of the RFP that the vendor would offer to reuse those cans if possible?
Jim? Or, I'm sorry, Eve, do you want to answer that?
Oh,
One of you, sorry.
Jim, I'll defer to you.
yeah, the proposal will be that if you want to, and we're going to use the carts that are provided by the hauler. But if you don't want to keep your old bins or carts, that they will be picked up by that hauler. That is a commodity that can be reused in other locations. So there is actually a market, albeit a small market for it. But they will not be just landfilled. They would be reused, reconditioned, and reused. That's my understanding of how the process works. Maybe Wayne has more detail on that.
Okay, well, yeah, I think that answers the question. So
Okay.
There was another component to the answer that I got when I asked the same question, which is that there will be RFID tags, radio frequency ID tags, embedded in the new carts, which will help with tracking both enforcement and other kind, when cards aren't picked up, like we have complaints about that nowadays, where it's hard to, know whether the cart was out at the right time and stuff like that. These RFID tags will really help with enforcement.
Right. And that's
Thanks,
why it's important that we use the ones that are provided by the hauler.
Okay. All right, Adam, who's next?
Okay, next we have Jess.
Hi, first I want to say thank you so much for looking into restarting the compost program. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to say my name and address. So I'm Jessica Atkins and I live at 204 Mount Lucas Road. I really appreciate the compost program being restarted. I'm very excited about that. And then also, I totally agree with Tom and Phyllis. And I was thinking on Tom's point, things about common questions about recycling, maybe like a magnet or a sticker that goes right on the bin or something like that. So people can just be reminded of, like, you know, like we're talking about, or you guys were talking about the recycling and like, do you put the plastic cap on the bottle? Like, I always have that question too. and I feel like there were probably very common questions that could be, addressed so people don't have to keep answering the same question over and over. And I also think that the checklist where someone who is repeatedly doing the wrong thing is getting feedback because they might be doing it by accident. It might not be malicious or something like that. So it's a good reminder. And my last thing I want to say is I totally agree with Councilwoman Sachs and Councilman Newland about bulk trash being a social justice issue. I used to live in a town where I had to pay to throw out bulk trash, and getting rid of like a mattress, for example, was like $90. And that could be completely unworkable for some people. And what winds up happening is when you can't pay, sometimes it just goes in the backyard or something like that, and it gets collecting water with mosquitoes and things like that. So I think it's really is a public health issue for the community. And like, we don't want to burden people with no way to get rid of garbage.
Thank you, Jess.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Eve, did you want to say something?
I did. Thanks, Jess, for those comments. Just again, something that got left out of the information we delivered tonight is that there will be the ability to, I'm going to mangle what the process is called, but I'll use the word stencil, to stencil information right onto the to the can that has a visual idea of what you can put in it and what you shouldn't put in it. So that is something that will come with your can and hopefully provide some reminders and guidance every time you go to throw something out. So that's one part we did think about. So thanks.
Thanks, Eve. All right, Adam, can you bring in the next person, please?
Yes, next we have Ed.
Ed, can you unmute yourself? All right. Adam, let's go to the next person, please.
Okay, next is Leslie.
Hi, everybody. This is Leslie Fabello at Fairway Drive. Just want to say a quick thank you again. I love this presentation. I'm a big fan of taking the stream of organics separate out of the trash. And ever since the 2019, where the program went away, I have continued to do that and have paid a premium to have a yearly subscription for someone to take it away on a biweekly basis. So just wanted to echo what Councilman Newland said of once you kind of start, taking that stream away, it's definitely something that you feel that it's something that we can just build into our daily practice. So thanks you for that nod. I just wanted to ask briefly, because I heard that Jim said that we can request a smaller trash can, but I didn't hear if we could request a smaller organics bin as well. Thank you.
Yes, that will be an option.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Leslie. All right. Adam, who's next?
Okay, next is Lauren.
Hi there. Lauren Seam, Morven Place. This is a follow-up to what Tony Lunn and Phyllis Teitelbaum spoke about. So I know that in Monmouth County, when it's recycling, if there's something in your recycling that on a quick visual inspection would contaminate the recycling, there's a pre-printed sheet that they leave on top of your recycling, and they just don't take your recycling. And I'm wondering, Monmouth County is not that far from Mercer County. Is there a reason that we're not doing the same thing here?
The recycling program is run by the county and not by us. But we can always reach out to them and ask them what are they doing to try to enforce proper behavior on that. That is a good question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Adam, can we try to bring Ed back in?
Just real quick while we're waiting,
Sure.
that has been done. I mean, we have raised that issue with Mercer County repeatedly.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you for doing this. And I'm definitely going to be taking full advantage of it. I just had a question about the restaurants and businesses in town. And I'm wondering, are they also taking part in all this? I don't know if that was already addressed in earlier.
We'll address it right now. But Ed, can you just say your name and address for the record?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Ed Markey. I'm on Lee Ave.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, do you want to address that, or who do I ask to address that?
No, that's fine. I can address that. The program is for residential. We pick up waste from residential, the residential community only now, and that's the plan for the future. The commercial establishments and even multifamily housing that's more than 4 units contracts separately with their own waste haulers. They're more than welcome to do the same thing, but they're not going to be part of our program.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like with restaurants, this would be kind of a no-brainer for them, but I understand if it's a private business, that makes sense. So thanks.
Thanks, Ed.
Wayne.
I was just going to add that commercial businesses that generate more than 1 ton of food waste per week are already mandated by state law to do a food waste recycling program. So the larger restaurants actually would have to do that today on their own, just as a point of information.
And the supermarkets as well, right? Right, Wayne? Don't the supermarkets?
Any commercial business that generates more than 1 ton a week, the university, supermarkets, restaurants, hotels, whatever. It's a commercial business, schools, they all have to come up with some means of doing this.
Okay. All right. Do we have anything else? I'm just looking at the time, and I know we have some redevelopment items to get to that is going to take a little bit of time also. But were there any other questions or comments that people felt hadn't been brought up yet? Okay. Jim, what do you need from us? Anything other than the fact that we're all nodding?
No, thank you very much. We will actually be publishing the bid, handing it off to the municipal clerk tomorrow for a publication on Friday, and get the process started right away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you, everybody, for helping out with the presentation. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go on to the second presentation, which has to do with a number of the redevelopment items. So let's see here. Kevin Van Heis, are you quarterbacking this?
I am, Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, this evening we are here for a briefing and update on 2 inclusionary projects that are set forth in Princeton's affordable housing plan, one of which is known as the Wynn Project and the other which is the Avalon Bay Project within Princeton Shopping Center. For the benefit of the audience and those that may not know me, I'm actually Princeton's Affordable Housing Council, and was responsible for navigating the Mount Laurel litigation that Princeton was a part of with most of the other municipalities in this state. And since going through Princeton's judgment, have been responsible for Princeton's compliance efforts, both with its settlement agreement and its affordable housing obligations. Both of these projects are inclusionary projects that are in Princeton's plan. So we wanted to provide a briefing to council and the public on kind of what is the final municipal step in the process. With me this evening, we have several members of Princeton's team. One of them, Frank Regan, is Special Redevelopment Counsel. Frank is actually both a planner and an attorney and is one of the foremost redevelopment experts in the state. We have Kevin McManaman, which is Princeton's bond counsel, and he's also one of the state's foremost bond and redevelopment attorneys. And Sherry Tracy from Phoenix Advisors. She's the senior managing director of Phoenix, and they're one of the preeminent public financing experts in the state. So Princeton has had a great team as we've been through both the affordable housing process and then the post judgment issues to get the projects actually up and running, which was part of the affordable housing requirements. This evening, there are actually 2 redevelopment agreements and several ordinances that are necessary for these projects. Just to kind of orient the public, wind development, or the wind project, is also known as the Alice Princeton. This is actually, it's a 125 unit with 25 affordable housing unit project that will be located at the corner of North Harrison Street and Terhune Road. And then the other project that we have on this evening is the Avalon Bay project, which is located within the Princeton Shopping Center. And we'll have a couple of graphics to kind of better orient the public in a moment. These agreements and the ordinances are the culmination of extensive efforts by the mayor and council, and in particular, the Affordable Housing Committee that has worked together with the municipal professionals and staff to effectuate these final agreements that will enable both Wynn and Avalon Bay to proceed towards their project financing and ultimately construction, hopefully by year's end and into the spring of next year. As the public may be aware and is indicated, these are mandated projects pursuant to Princeton's affordable housing compliance efforts. They were included in our affordable housing settlement agreement that was entered into back in 2019. We received court approval of these projects in 2020, and shortly thereafter adopted the necessary zoning ordinances to provide for these 2 projects. In 2021, as the developers came online, council shifted and we elected to use the redevelopment process. And there were several reasons for that. And specifically, under the redevelopment law, the municipality has significantly greater flexibility through the creation of redevelopment plans, financial agreements, and redevelopment agreements to actually custom tailor design projects and put in amenities, aspects, characteristics of the project through design, using bulk standards and that sort of things to effectuate municipal goals that really benefit the residents and the overall community. And so we were able to do that successfully here. Princeton engaged in the public process. The redevelopment law is actually a very public process. So there were initial investigations that were initiated. There were public hearings regarding those investigations. This project, or this area, actually was designated as the North Harrison Street redevelopment area. Redevelopment plans for both of these projects were adopted. And ultimately, the developers, both Wynn and Avalon Bay, will proceed with the planning board process and received approvals for these projects. So from the approval process, they are actually ready to go. And these items on tonight's agenda are actually the final steps for kind of the primary municipal governing body actions, so that these developers can then ultimately obtain their financing and proceed with the development of these. So we have, as I indicated, there are 2 redevelopment agreements to be approved by resolution this evening. And then also we have financial agreements, a bond ordinance, and an ordinance allowing for an acceptance of an easement to provide for public amenities on the wind project for first reading this evening. And then there will be a second reading, the public hearing, and then consideration for adoption at the August 22nd meeting. So with that, I know Sherry has put up the initial presentation, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you very much. As Kevin mentioned, my name is Sherry Tracy. I work with Princeton as the municipal advisor to Princeton. So we have worked with the redevelopment subcommittee and the team to review the proposals as set forth by the 2 developers for the 2 projects we're going to talk about this evening, and to look at the details of those projects. As Kevin mentioned, it's very important to the subcommittee and then also to the mayor and council that while Princeton is meeting their fair share housing obligation, they're doing so with projects that really add to Princeton. Really are not just buildings, not just apartment buildings, units, but really something that is just going to add to the municipality. So I think you'll see that in these projects tonight. So the first one we'll talk about is the Alice. And you see it, this is the corner of Terhune
Can we
and North
be-
Hill.
The presentation isn't up, so somebody needs to share.
I see it.
I can see it.
Can you see it? I can't see it on my
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, it's there.
You
Yeah.
have,
Never
I can-
mind. All right, I see the problem. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So this is the first project that we'll talk about. And as Kevin mentioned, this just gives you a aerial view of the existing land, so that to better orient yourselves on where this is happening. And again, as we mentioned, North Harrison and Terhune Road, right in here. You'll see in a moment, this is really where the majority of the housing units will be. And through this project, the developer is actually, Kevin mentioned an ordinance to deed or to for an easement to Princeton to be able to transfer land to Princeton through an easement. And a lot of what we'll see here for neighborhood enhancements, we're going to see sort of in this area of the property. So then this is a picture of the site rendering. This is what is expected for the project to look like upon completion. And again, as you see here, as I mentioned, the units here, and then these are some of the neighborhood enhancements. Whereas again, a large portion of this land will be given over to Princeton to use as public space. So one of the things that, as I mentioned, was really important in looking at this was, as these new units are coming online, it's also important to be able to add public space for the neighborhood, the existing residents in the neighborhood, and also for the new tenants that will be living in the neighborhood. So as you see here, this is just a slide where, and we'll go into, we have individual pictures of each of these here so that you'll be able to see them close up. But this kind of gives you an idea right here as to these areas in some of the different colors here. Yeah, we have the park here, a native plantings garden here, a dog park, the dog park up here. So you kind of see some of the pictures. And again, we'll go into more detail. But these are really the areas that I mentioned, about a quarter of the total lot that will be turned over to Princeton to use as public space for the neighborhood. And again, we'll go into each of these in more detail, but this is a dog park that'll be up in this corner. This is a neighborhood park, which really fills in through this area here. And then down here, the native plantings garden, which will be in this corner here. There's also significant improvements made along both the roads here, North Harrison and Terhune, for pedestrian, in expanding pedestrian and bike lanes, as well as enhancing safety and stormwater along the road as well. So this is just a depiction, the front entrance of the building. And then this was a slide on the beginning that you saw for the title slide. I think one of the important things in looking at this was a lot of the, as we mentioned, bicycle pedestrian lanes included into here, really connecting the neighborhood, these new projects, into other areas of town, into neighboring Grover Park. Where possible, the committee worked with the developer to make sure that certain things, like example, this pine tree that's here, was able to be kept and worked around. So where that was possible, those decisions were made. And then this is a picture of the neighborhood park. So as you see here, this will be kind of a estimated to be likely a tot lot. So for kids to play in here, you see the fence around here. There's areas for sitting. There's lots of shaded area, benches. And again, you see the bicycle pathways here and the building off in the distance. This is just another rendering, another angle of the park. So you see a lot of, as I was mentioning, the shaded areas, the benches, the bicycle racks. And then this is the native plantings garden. And so this area, originally had been thought to be more of a kind of hardscaped area, a lot of more pavers, and based on some feedback from the planning board, the redeveloper was willing and able to sort of make some adjustments here and instead put some more green back in, make this more of a softer landscaped area. There's some areas for sitting up here. This pathway will goes up, kind of slopes up to sort of avoid this area is a little bit lower grade down here. And so rather than having steps to go up, the pathway sort of takes you up to get you up to the higher ground. And again, you see more of the bicycle and pedestrian areas. And this is just another shot of the park. Or I'm sorry, the plantings garden, the picture we just showed. Here are a few pictures of the dog park. So this is a close up again. This was up in the corner of the property that kind of abuts Grover Park up here. There's an area projected to be an area for small dogs here, for large dogs. This is a picture down here of sort of the anticipated fencing that would be used for the dog park. Some different equipment that will likely be in the dog park as well for the dogs to play. And again, all of these are neighborhood public enhancements. So these are not for residents of the building of the project, but these are open to the public. This land again will be given as an easement to Princeton. And these are a few of the amenities that you'll see in the building. So here we've got some bicycle storage. So the developer has proposed to add some both indoor and outdoor storage for bicycles. As you see, some green space on top of the roof there. Another picture of it there. Some furnished roof deck access here for residents. Solar panels on the property, as well as some additional green roofs down here. So those are some of the renderings, the pictures, some of the details. I know Kevin had mentioned it is a 125 total units, 4-story multifamily residential building. And then here you see the breakout. It is an inclusionary project. 20% will be affordable housing. And you see the breakdown there. The majority are 1 and 2 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, or I'm sorry, there's 3. There are 6 3-bedroom units, all of those being affordable units. And for this project, we're looking at a 12% pilot, so 12% of annual gross revenue for years 1 through 24 on the project will be paid to Princeton, with it stepping up to 13% of annual gross revenue from years 25 through 30. These would also be subject to the statutory step-ups based on the redevelopment law, so that if the 12 or 13% was not hitting certain minimums as a percentage of taxes, 20, 40, 60, 80, particularly in the later years, the pilot then would step up into those either 60, 80% of traditional taxes.
Sharon, if I could interrupt for a moment, and one of the reasons why it was important, I think, to show a lot of those slides were. There are a lot of features that are built into this development that are simply very difficult to achieve through traditional zoning. And frankly, several of the aspects are actually prohibited by COA's rules, which require municipalities to eliminate unduly cost-generative features. But through the use of the redevelopment process, which included, as I alluded to before, the ability to actually make site-specific development standards and parameters that help a developer effectuate a better development plan as opposed to a very broad-brushed kind of your traditional bulk standards. Also through the use of a financial agreement, a pilot agreement, financial assistance to a project, and then through also the use of a redevelopment agreement. A municipality and a developer can actually agree to put these enhancements in, which will enhance not only the experience for the primary residents of the project, but also the general community as well. And that's why the park, a lot of those amenities that are going to be in there, multi-purpose path, the bicycle lanes will all directly benefit, in particular the neighborhood, but the greater Princeton community, especially in getting back and forth to the shopping center and some of the adjoining communities. Thanks, Sherry.
No, thank you. Thank you. That's great. The other part of that is, as well as the pilot, there would be a 2% pilot administrative fee that's also paid to Princeton. That's 2% of the total pilot annually. Would also be paid as, as it's recognized that there's some additional work done in the municipality, within the administrative office of managing the pilot. So as Kevin just mentioned, we show a lot of the amenities in the project because the redevelopment tools really allow for money to be reinvested back into the project to be able to add the types of things that wouldn't be able to happen, you wouldn't see in a project, particularly with 20% of affordable housing included. Certain things that have been included here. WIN has proposed 27 electric vehicle charging stations that will be on site at the property. They have agreed to a $300,000 contribution to support municipal transit shuttle service through the area. The building does have several green building certifications, including Zero Energy Ready Homes, Energy Star, Indoor Air Plus, Passive House Envelope Design. So the buildings themselves are just are really state of the art, top of the line when it comes to sustainability. We saw the solar panels on the roof, the green roofs, stormwater retention, stormwater management, all throughout the project. Also the indoor and outdoor bike storage, which does promote, again, non-vehicular use of transportation throughout the community. The building will also have a conference room, office center, business office center, fitness center, community kitchen, a billiards room with some high top tables, a pet washroom after the pets get back from the dog park, the children's room, the wellness room, the furnished roof deck, as we saw. So all these amenities inside this building, to be included in this project. And then again, importantly, the allocation of the land. The developer is going to be providing an easement for roughly 25% of the total lot size, about 1.5 acres, to Princeton to build these neighborhood enhancements. So the pictures that we showed will be built, and then again for public use. As part of the redevelopment agreement, Princeton will be agreeing to, and we'll see in the ordinance that will be on the agenda for introduction tonight, to finance up to $2.975 million of those neighborhood enhancements, the projects we showed, on the land that's allocated to the municipality. So the tot lot that we looked at, the playground area, the walking and cycling paths, the park, again, having the areas for sitting, some shaded relaxation, the bike racks, the enhanced pedestrian and bicycle network that we really see throughout the entire project, really connecting, again, the shopping center, other areas of the community with Grover Park and throughout the project. The fully equipped dog park, enhanced stormwater features. And so all of this is what the bond ordinance that will be on tonight's agenda would be going to build and to add to the neighborhood. Importantly, there's also going to be a special assessment on the property during the term of the bond financing. So really what this means is this just is additional protection to the municipality should the project not, obviously with the pilot revenues going towards paying the debt service on these neighborhood enhancements, if the project were delayed and the building not completed yet, the developer would need to pay the amount up to what the debt service would still be due on the neighborhood enhancements until such time as the project was then CO'd. So that's just a security measure. Certainly, one of the, as I am not an attorney, one of the attorneys can certainly describe that in a little bit better detail, but basically just an additional security provision for the municipality. So that is the first project. And as we mentioned, there are two. The second one is within the shopping center, adjacent to this property in the shopping center. And this is Avalon at Princeton Shopping Center. And now this project, while also 20% inclusionary, as we'll see here, a little bit different because there really isn't land. This property is basically the property that the building that the residential units will be on. There's not a lot of land. So what's going to be a little bit different in here as we go through it, instead of having land that the developer is giving to Princeton to then add neighborhood enhancements, in this case, there is no land available around the project. So part of the agreement, the developer will be giving cash to Princeton to make enhancements at Grover Park, where Princeton already has land. So the enhancements then will be paid for renovations through a developer contribution. So this is a picture of the Avalon project. And again, just to orient everyone with where it is, this is the area of the shopping center here, where the project will be built. And then just another rendering and overall site plan. This building will also have a parking garage, 300 space parking garage, which is included over here. And also just another picture of the building. And so this building will have 200 total units, again, 4-story multifamily residential. And you see the breakdown here with studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and then 3-bedroom. The 300 parking space structure that I mentioned. And this pilot is proposed with a 12% pilot for the 30-year term, subject to those same statutory increases that we spoke about on the other project. This one will have a 1% administrative fee paid to Princeton for administration of the pilot. And then as you see, the $1.2 million developer contribution, as I mentioned, for the improvements to Grover Park. And again, just really highlighting, I think it was very important to the subcommittee that these just not be boxed apartment unit buildings in order to meet the court mandated housing. And so it was very important to just look at overall and how can we really enhance the neighborhood and put together some just really fantastic projects to be able to really add to the neighborhood. So as you see, both of these provide not only phenomenal housing structure, but also neighborhood benefits and then cash to be able to make some needed improvements to Grover Park. So with that, I will turn it back over. Kevin, if there's anything you have to add, or to the mayor and council for questions.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Frank, Kevin, if you have anything to add. Otherwise, Mayor would turn it back over to council in case there are any questions or comments.
Okay. Can you stop sharing just so we get the?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
Okay. Eve.
Thank you, Mark. Sherry, thank you. And to the rest of, to the council members, Mia, Michelle, and David that have worked on this for a long time with, I think, great results. To both of our Kevins, thank you. And to Frank as well. I am so enthusiastic about this. I think that in both cases, we've taken areas. I mean, the parking lot in front of where, Walgreens is now is going to become a really much more beautiful tree lined, really attractive site. I think it'll bring a lot of vitality to the Princeton Shopping Center. As a member of both, as a watershed employee and a member of PEC, I've participated several times in cleanups in the area that is now going to be the Wynn or Alice development. And I can tell you those woods were pretty gross. And those members of the Environmental Commission who've been in them, lots of trash, lots of debris from the creation of the shopping center, which would not be allowed now, but, big chunks of cement and large pieces of iron rebar and other things just scattered throughout, not the kind of rich and diverse forest we should make a priority to keep. There were trees there, and that was better than nothing. But again, this is part of focusing our affordable housing and new developments in areas that are close to transit, close to other amenities, and as a counterpart to our ability to preserve land that we have that is really high value. So to take a parking lot and turn it into housing, and the Princeton Shopping Center lot, the stormwater will actually be enhanced. Stormwater disposition will actually be enhanced by both projects. So that will be a benefit. And then, roughly between the contributions of the various developers, we'll be putting $4 million into that area, which, admittedly is getting a lot of this round of affordable housing. But I think once the construction is done, which will be painful and difficult, I think we'll have a shopping center that is enhanced, a lot of community benefits, and I think really great projects. The Wynn project in particular is just really everything that we always would like our housing, our affordable housing to be. And Kevin can, I can vouch that every time we've made a suggestion over the years about couldn't they do this, or couldn't they do solar roofs, or couldn't they do green roofs, or couldn't they do, enhance, Kevin would say, generative costs. You can't ask them to do anything that involves spending extra money. And here we're in a situation where the municipality is going to end up with more than it would if it just collected taxes. And we're going to get developments that are so much better than we could have gotten any other way. So in case you can't tell, I am really enthusiastic about this, and really appreciate all of you. I mean, just reading through those agreements, which I can't say I read every single word, but I did really go through every page. And the level of detail, just wow, such a lot of work with a great result. So thanks to all of you who've been working on that.
Chief Layton.
Following up on Councilwoman Niedergang, and I'm going to be brief. Everybody who had a hand in this, from the redevelopment team to all the legal people, if you looked up affordable housing done right in the dictionary, this is what you would see. This is a remarkable opportunity for us. And can you imagine what type of high volume energy and community there will be where there is absolutely nothing now but a big area of green grass and trees and a flatline piece of concrete. Great job, and kudos to all of you for a job well done.
Thanks, Layton. Other council comments or questions? Leticia.
Yes. Well, I want to echo what has been said already by Eve and Layton, and thank my colleagues and all those involved in putting this together. And I know it's not part of this what's going to be before us, but I want to plant a seed for thought for that we know that this is coming in the near future. And I would really like for us to do all we can to ensure that our residents who will be income eligible to reside in the affordable units, that we help them prepare so that they, not just that they're eligible, but we help them prepare so they can actually qualify to live in the affordable units. And that's through financial literacy or whatever else we need to do to ensure that they can actually get into and be able to live in such what looks to be is going to be such a wonderful community.
Thanks, Leticia. Any other council comments or questions at the moment? Okay, we have a couple hands up from the public. Adam, can we bring in the first member of the public, please?
Yes, first we have Jess.
Okay, and again, people, it's a 3-minute limit. Just say your name and address, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jess Atkins again, and I live at 204 Mount Lucas Road. I want to just say thank you for doing adding affordable housing to Princeton. I just think that is so important, and I'm grateful for that. So thanks. I'm a homeowner, but I just really think that there should be more people able to live in Princeton. So thanks. And I just had a couple of comments on some of the extra things that are being added to this project, which are amazing. One is like there's going to be that native plantings area, which is awesome. But one note I wanted to mention is the developers should not use pesticides there. Otherwise, you're going to be attracting wildlife to a place where they're going to die. So that it's very important that the maintenance match with what's going to be there. And also, I like that they're going to keep mature trees, and I think that they should try to keep as many as they can. And my next comment was on the car chargers. It's amazing that there's going to be so many. I myself drive an electric vehicle. So one thing that they might want to consider is at least installing some level 3 chargers, which are faster. It'll allow more people to charge, because something that happens sometimes are, someone who doesn't actually have an electric car takes a spot and you can't get there, or someone leaves their car there literally all the time. So if the car takes 8 hours to charge, you live in an apartment complex, that same car might be there the whole time. And if even, I know it's 20 spots, but there's a lot of apartments, so that could happen. But if they were faster chargers, more people could charge quickly. And then my last note would be for the children's areas, that's so cool that you guys are adding that. And maybe consider making them handicap accessible. There's this amazing park in Toms River called Field of Dreams that is fantastic. I mean, it's like the ideal, it has everything that a family with disabilities might need, and it might be something to look at. I mean, I'm sure you guys can't do that, but even adding a few of the features that they have would be great, and it would be something nice to consider. So that's all I had to say. So thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jess. Those were really helpful, excellent suggestions, all of them, especially the pesticides. And I think there are 26 or 28 chargers actually altogether.
Mhm. Can I?
Michelle?
I'll comment that we do have something underway, the recreation department, looking at something for special needs and adaptive playground equipment. And I also, so thank you, Jess, for bringing that up. And I wanted to mention too that, we are looking at both, having tot lot equipment in one area and then, having a balance with Grover of maybe the 5 to 12 through the other tot lot is 2 to 5. So just having something for everybody so that we have a lot of different equipment available. So we are looking at that and too, and thank you.
Okay, Adam, could you bring in the next person, please?
Yes, next is Wilma.
Hello, my name is David Goldberg. I'm the husband of Wilma Solomon, and she's here also. We live at 41 TR Place, Princeton, New Jersey, since 1983. And I traveled there. I want to bring your attention to the corner of North Harrison Street and Terhune. So that will be at the corner of where the development near the that end of the shopping center will be. I travel daily on North Harrison Street from the direction of downtown towards Route 206. As you approach Terhune on Harrison Street, there is a division of the traffic, of the auto traffic, traveling towards Route 206. The right-hand lane is a right turn lane only. And I'm often traveling in the middle lane, and a car is passing me on the right, and I'm thinking, why are they going so fast? And what it turns out to be is there are many employees at the medical building and many patients going to the medical building at 419 North Harrison Street, which is directly across the street on Terhune. And they're just going there very quickly. They need to be there, especially at a certain hour, such as 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. And I think that something could be addressed to help the increased pedestrian traffic, which is going to be at that corner. I'm only pointing it out because it's actually sometimes a problem now when you have children trying to cross the street to go to the charter school. I'm only addressing it now. I'm not saying it is a problem, but I think it's something to be looked at, the pedestrian traffic at that corner, as a result of the increased foot traffic that will be there. That's it. I welcome the development. Really, I think this is wonderful. It looks like it's gotten a lot of attention from a broad planning basis, which is very good, rather than a spotty kind of thing. And I think it's being considered as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, Adam, who's next?
Okay, next is Tom.
Tom? Tom, we can't hear you if you're there. All right, Adam, let's go to the next person. We'll try to bring Tom back afterwards.
Okay, moving on to Dale.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Dale Mead. I live at 48 Oakland Street, Princeton, New Jersey. And I'm concerned about the impact of these projects on property taxes. Property taxes from the beginning of the project right through to the end. And I would appreciate it very much if you could provide me with a copy of your analysis that you've done on the impact of this project or both projects on property taxes for this 30-year period.
Okay. Dale, is that the only request?
That's my only request. I'd like to see the financial analysis that shows how the increased costs of this project are going to be impacting the property tax from the beginning all the way through to the end, which I think is taken as about 30 years, and including the impact on the physical infrastructure surrounding the construction area, where you'll have to be increasing the roads, streets, et cetera, and so on. And I assume you have such an analysis as that you've done your due diligence in preparing the financial aspects for the city as it goes forward. Is such a financial analysis available?
Sherry or Kevin, can you reply to that?
I think I know we'll get into a lot of the financial details at the public hearing for the ordinances on the 22nd. As far as there's financial analysis looking at a lot of different pieces for that. Actually, one of the things that the pilot does as we talk about the tools of redevelopment is with providing more money. And again, I want to save a lot of the financial information for the next meeting when it can be on the public record as part of the public hearing. But what the pilot revenue does is brings more money to Princeton, to the municipality than would be received under traditional taxes as the municipal portion of the tax rate. So what it does is actually allows Princeton to be able to use that money as it sees fit in the community. So looking at things, supporting the infrastructure and, in this case too, obviously being able to add some of these amenities. So, that definitely all of those things have been looked at and discussed. In some cases, it actually, may end up helping property taxes. And I certainly don't want to speak for mayor and council, but because of additional revenue coming into the municipality to be able to do things than would otherwise be done under a traditional tax standpoint.
Well, I'd like to see a comprehensive analysis, and at the next meeting or when this is discussed, that includes the impact on the school budget due to the increased population of children, perhaps at this in these new construction areas, and how that is then going to interact with the overall tax rate that the rest of Princeton is going to be paying.
Mayor, if I may, this is Kevin McManaman. Can I respond? Thank
you. Yeah,
please. Mr. Mead, I want to encourage you. There's a tax exemption application that was submitted by Wynn, the redeveloper here, and in that application, they've incorporated a fiscal and economic impact analysis that was prepared by Phillips Price Griegel, who is a leading planning and economic fiscal analysis firm in the state of New Jersey. And in that analysis, they estimate and they project and estimate the impact on the local economic environment of this project. And I think you can see that the estimated pilot revenues to the town exceed the expected costs associated with the project. So I think you can infer from that the impact on the tax rateable base beyond this project there won't be one, because the revenues generated by this project will cover the expected costs associated with the project.
Okay, the study you just mentioned, is that
Mr. Mead, I'm
study
just
available?
Can I just jump in for a second? Because having read through all of this over the last couple of days, that analysis is in the packet that you can download from the municipal website. It covers everything that you're asking about in great detail. How many school children would be generated, what the costs will be for maintaining infrastructure, and it compares that to the pilot. And I think everything you want is in that. So maybe you can look that over and see if you have additional questions. I can't remember what pages it's on.
Exhibit 18.
What was that?
It's Exhibit 18 in the long-term tax exemption application form that the redeveloper submitted.
Okay, I will make an Oprah request tomorrow morning to the
No, no.
county
It's
clerk.
You don't need to make an Oprah request. It's in the council packet that is on the website that you can just
In,
go.
in
to
tonight's
the-
council package?
Yes, it is right in
Okay.
there. You can just download it. It's all there.
Okay,
And you can look that over, and then if you have additional questions, we can try to answer those.
okay, I will. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Okay, Eve, thank you. Mia, did you have
Yeah, I was gonna reiterate, Dale, that the information, there's about 700 pages in the agenda packet for tonight, which, as everyone said, covers a lot of the information that you asked about. But I also just wanted to remind you that these are court mandated affordable housing projects. We are not by law permitted to consider the impact of school children. We can estimate costs and how much it, sort of in a sort of unofficial way, but by law, we are not allowed to consider the impact. And I'm not sure that we even should be considering it, discussing it at this meeting. And, these are not voluntary projects. They are projects that we are required by law to build. And as the attorneys and Sherry very articulately described, the town was able to work out arrangements which bring tremendous benefits to the neighborhood. But the state has a highly regulated system for facilitating the production of affordable housing. And things like cost to infrastructure, school children, these are not relevant factors that are taken into account by the judge when the municipality appears before the judge to provide an accounting that they have complied with their settlement requirements and obligations. So I understand your interest, but it's also important to understand the context in which this is being undertaken and the extreme legal constraints around what can and cannot be done.
Thanks, Mia. Michelle?
Just quickly to add on to, in terms of infrastructure, transit, multimodal transit, we worked a lot to really invest. When we talk about community benefits, we're talking about pro rata shares of, crosswalks, bike paths, the infrastructure that we really need for to make sure that it's really safe and transit oriented. And we also, have a transit contribution from one developer, well, actually two developers, towards making this this transition into the density that will be there in that area. So I think you need to also consider that as well, because we worked really hard at making sure that we are getting those investments. And as my colleagues already pointed out, we're getting some really good economic benefits, but really we're bringing affordable housing in a really responsible way, I believe. So thank you for the questions.
Thanks, Michelle. Adam, can you bring in the next person, please?
Yes, next we have Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Atkins. I live on Mount Lucas Road, and I'm calling. First of all, I really appreciate the location of these two projects. I think that by surrounding the shopping center with residential housing, it's a great way for people to walk to where they need to shop. I always like seeing mixed use development, so I'm really pleased to see that that's where they're going. I wanted to mention, I don't know if this is already under consideration, but the free D transit, or I think it's the Muni now. Maybe we should add some stops at the new developments to just integrate them more into town, so that if you live there, it's easier to get downtown. And just in general, I'm excited. Like I like Princeton a lot. I'm excited to make it more accessible to more people who want to live here. So I'm happy to see this development taking place. I also wanted to echo what was said earlier about the chargers. It's great. It's great to have the EV chargers there, but the faster chargers, I think, would help people a lot more the DC fast chargers that are now being built, but like by default, when we build new EV chargers, the ones that are at the shopping center, for example, are not too useful because people just sort of.
Hey, Bill, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's really all I had. Is I just wanted to echo that request to consider using the more modern fast charger, since we're building new infrastructure right now. And overall, just again, I'm pleased to see that this is going to become a walkable community, and it would be great to integrate it more easily into downtown with free public transit that we already have.
And I'll just answer, Bill, we are absolutely in the process of planning that and really excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Bill. All right, Adam, can we bring in the next person, please?
Yes, next we have Lauren.
Thank you. Hi there, Lauren Thiem. I'm Morgan Place. Back to EV chargers. I know this is a bit nitty gritty, but just something I wonder if you've already thought about. So EV chargers are great, no problem with that at all. But of course, electricity isn't free. So will there be payment required for these chargers? If so, at what rate and what form of payment? For example, a credit card will be required. And the reason I ask this is that there's a mixed market rate and affordable development in Franklin Lakes where the EV charge, I don't know what county Franklin Lakes is in, where the EV chargers have sort of become a bone of contention, both the price it's being charged and some of the affordable units saying that the fact that you have to pay with credit card has become an issue. So I'm just kind of wondering what thought's been given to how the EV chargers will be paid for and what rate will be set for the electricity. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. Adam, is that level of detail anything that the committee has discussed with the developer? David?
We haven't discussed it. I would say, these are mostly going to be private chargers for the residents of the building. And for that reason, the municipality doesn't have a lot of stake, I guess I would say, in how that all gets managed. But I think for the very same reason, the developer wants to make the housing attractive and attract tenants. And so they're going to do with those chargers, I think, what will draw people to the building. That's my sense of it.
And I'll also add that at our recent discussion last week, we suggested making a certain percentage of the chargers available for public use, and they were amenable to that. And I've given that the cutting edge sustainability features that the developer has added to this development, I feel pretty confident that if they haven't already thought about the fast chargers, that it's something they would be interested in pursuing.
Thanks, Mia. Okay, let's get Adam. We have one more hand up. Let's get to that because we have some resolutions and ordinances to take care of.
Okay, bringing over Tom.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Tom. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry for the problems. As I live on Clearview Avenue, Tom Lederer. When this project was approved, if my interpretation is correct, it was an application of Avalon Bay, and it was going to pay real estate taxes on this project. Now, I'd just like to read a paragraph from the literature that was on this application. In light of market conditions, economic factors, and development costs impacting this project, it is not financially feasible to undertake this development of this project in the absence of tax exemption. In other words, without the incentive tax exemption, it is unlikely the project would be undertaken. Without the project, the benefits described above would not be realized. So Avalon Bay, in my interpretation, has created this tax exempt entity. And instead of paying real estate taxes, it's now going to pay make payments in lieu of taxes. This will make presumably the project more financially feasible for the developer. And Avalon Bay is the sole owner of this nonprofit or this tax exempt entity. So I think it would be useful for the public to know the reduction in revenue that that's going to occur, that originally that would be real estate income on this $83.6 million project. Now it's going to be payment in lieu of taxes, roughly 12% of gross revenue. So I think it would be useful to know the reduction in income to the municipality as a result of this new arrangement. Hopefully I've interpreted this correctly, and I'm certainly subject to correction. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mayor, on that. And I would just defer the financial agreements need to be done by ordinance. And so therefore, those are the subject of the August 22nd meeting. So I think that's a better time to address these. I think I would hold comments or answers on those until the public hearing, if that's okay.
Well, yeah, because we're going to introduce those ordinances tonight, and it would be inappropriate to have a detailed discussion on the introduction of an ordinance. So, Tom, we're not trying to duck your question, but there'll be a detailed discussion of that at the August 22nd meeting.
Can I just say one quick thing, which is if you make your way through all the documents in the council package for today, you will get answers to those questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good, Eve. Slid that one right in. There you go. Thank you. It is amazing. I mean, if you do read all of that, there is quite a bit to read. So plan on doing it over a couple of days. Don't try to do it all at once. Okay. I don't see any other hands up. I'd really like to get to the two related resolutions if there's not anything else that any council members need to do right at the moment or ask or say. Okay, great. So we're going to take we had changed the order of the agenda, and resolutions 1 and 2 will be the next items that we're going to address. So the first one is 22-280, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton approving and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with Terhune Development Urban Renewal, LLC, as redeveloper for property located at North Harrison Street and Terhune Road, also known as Block 7401, Lot 20, located in an area of need of redevelopment for development of an inclusionary housing project. Is there a motion on that? Eve, me, I think was first, and David, I think, got the second. Okay. Sorry, sometimes when you just all raise your hands one right after the other, it's hard for me to catch who did what. Questions, comments on the motion? Okay, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's everybody. All right, 22-281, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton approving and should be authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with Princeton SC Residential Urban Renewal, LLC, an affiliate of Avalon Bay Communities, Inc., as redeveloper for property located at North Harrison Street, so known as Block 7401, Lot 1.013, located in an area of redevelopment, in need of redevelopment for development of an inclusionary housing project. Can we have a motion on that? Thank you, Michelle. David's got the second. Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that's everybody. All right, so now we're going to jump back to the list of ordinance introductions. First one up, ordinance 2022-24, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton regarding lane use reservations and amending chapter 11 of the code of the township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968, public hearing, August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion? Thank you, Eve. David's got the second. We don't really discuss these, but if anybody has like a clarifying question only, but without getting into any substance. I'm just going to say that once, and it goes for every introduction.
I'll just say lanes literally means lanes here. So the wording I found a little confusing. Lane use reservations means how you use the lanes on a road.
Thank you. Steve. That's actually pretty helpful. I'm sure there are a lot of people wondering what the heck we were talking about. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Ms. Peron Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2022-25, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton, loading zones and amending chapter 19 of the code of the borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974. Public hearing, August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, David. Michelle's got the second. Any clarifying questions? Okay, roll call vote again.
Ms. Peron Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-26, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton regarding regulating speed limits on Pretty Brook Road and amending the code of the township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. Public hearing, August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, David. Thank you, Leighton, for the second. It's a roll call vote.
Mayor, can I just, this is largely in response to people from the neighborhood. Pretty Brook is a tough road to walk on, but it's kind of the only road there is there. There aren't a lot of other roads, and the traffic safety committee, with the input of our now departed Sergeant Murray, who's retired, and engineering, thank you, Jim, made the recommendation that this be made to enhance the safety of pedestrians on this street.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. Peron Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-27, ordinance of the municipality of Princeton, county of Mercer, New Jersey, approving application exemption and authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with Terhune Development Urban Renewal, LLC, in connection therewith. Public hearing, August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion? Thank you, Mia, and Michelle's got the second. It's a roll call vote also.
Ms. Peron Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-28, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the municipality of Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $3,500,000. Therefore, authorizing the issuance of $3,500,000 bonds or notes of the municipality for financing the cost thereof, directing the special assessment of a part of the cost thereof, and authorizing the execution of one or more special assessment agreements in connection therewith. Public hearing, August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion? Michelle got the motion. Mia has the second. That's a roll call vote also.
Ms. Peron Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-29 of the municipality of Princeton accepting the dedication of certain lands and public improvements to be constructed on private property, block 7401, lot 20, by a redeveloper, and authorizing the execution of an easement agreement between Princeton and Terhune Development Urban Renewal, LLC, the property owner and redeveloper, to facilitate the redevelopment of the property. Public hearing, August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion? Thank you, Mia. David's got the second. Roll call vote.
Perone Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sacks,
yes,
Mr. Nolan.
yes,
Okay, last ordinance for introduction, ordinance 2022-30, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton, County of Mercer, New Jersey, approving application for a long-term tax exemption and authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with Princeton SC Residential Urban Renewal LLC in connection therewith. Public hearing August 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion? Thank you, Leighton. Michelle's got the second. It's a roll call vote.
Ms. Perone Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Ms. Sacks,
yes.
Mr. Nolan.
C,
Okay, that's all the introductions. I'd like to thank the attorneys and our financial advisor for hanging in so long and helping us with everything tonight. So your help is deeply appreciated. Take the rest of the night off.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor, Council. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Take care.
Kevin.
Take care.
Thanks, Kevin, and Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to jump back to the resolution list, and we are on number 3. 22282, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton approving consent order of settlement in the matter captioned Municipality of Princeton versus Benjamin L. Gulick and Jeanette Gulick, docket number MER-C-75-21. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Dave. Is there a second? Thank you, Eve. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. All right. 22-283, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton approving police promotions for 2022. Thank you, Leticia. Is there a second? Thank you, Michelle. Any questions or comments? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Congratulations. We had a promotion to sergeant and a promotion to corporal. 22-284, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton determining the form and other details of its note relating to the construction financing loan program of the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank to be issued in the principal amount of up to $2,900,000 and providing for the issuance and sale of such note to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank and authorizing the execution and delivery of such by Princeton in favor of the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, all pursuant to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank Construction Financing Loan Program. Is there a motion? Thank you, David. So Michelle's got the second. Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry, hold it. Michelle, were you?
I want to thank Jim and Deanna and the staff for pursuing the iBank funding. I think that's some zero interest loans and some really good funding. So I don't know if he had anything specific to say to it, but I just wanted to thank him for pursuing.
Great. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, I'm sorry, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. 22-285, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing the award of a contract to Trias Inc. via the Sourcewell contract number 122220-WWI for the purchase of 3 Westward model GO-4 electric vehicles, scooters, for parking enforcement in the amount of $146,564.31. Michelle's got the motion. Letitia's got the second. Questions or comments? Michelle?
Just to thank staff and Tim, I think it was Tim Vanetta in particular for their analysis. I thought it was really very insightful and very helpful that, the cost would, be borne out of 5 years. And I also just want to point out too, parking revenue, meter revenue does generate a good amount of non-tax revenue for the municipality. So it is good to make sure we take good care of the enforcement and we have good vehicles. So I appreciate the analysis.
Okay, thank you. David?
Yeah, I also really appreciate the life cycle cost analysis, although I will point out that they had the gas price in at $2.35 a gallon. So the payback period is not going to be as long as 5 years. I can pretty much guarantee that.
Good catch. I missed that one. Very
Yeah,
good.
they said intentionally that they used 2021 prices because they didn't want to reflect, a temporary blip in the market, but I don't think it's a temporary blip, folks. So
I agree with you there. Thank you, David.
Leticia?
Yes, I just had an additional comment. Thank you for the analysis, but I also wanted to comment that I had heard from one of our parking enforcement officers that there were issues with the current EV cards that they use, that the charging was not lasting, and that there was a lot of downtime and having to use the gas powered when one was available. So they weren't as efficient. So I actually reached out to Bernie, who was able to answer some of the questions, specifically that the ones that are being purchased are a lot more efficient, will actually last 48 hours. So I was very happy to see that what we're purchasing is actually going to be more efficient, and there shouldn't be any downtime.
Yeah, the units we have now are past the end of their life. So the fact that they operate at all is amazing.
Yeah.
To be honest. Leighton?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. There was an article in the paper that kind of balked at a three-wheel scooter at $50,000. But as my colleagues have noted, parking is a revenue generator here in Princeton. This is indeed money well spent, very well spent. And, park up there and don't put money in the meter and help us out.
it helps if they put money in, it helps if they don't put money in.
Okay. Okay. Are we good? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. 22-286, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing municipality to participate in the intra-county mutual aid and assistance agreement with participating units in the county of Mercer. And thank you, Michelle. Is there a second? Thank you, Eve. Any questions or comments?
I just want to say it's a great program, and it's something that's really necessary for our municipality, and I think it's just a great program. And I thank particularly Michael Ye, for working with the county on this. So,
yeah, thank you. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda, and if no one wants anything on the consent agenda taken off the consent agenda. Leighton, are you moving the consent agenda? Yes, you are. Thank you very much. Is there a second on the? David, thank you. All in favor of the consent agenda item, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's the end. David?
Would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
Thank you. Is there a second? Whew, I was worried there for a second. Thank you, Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting's done.